on today's episode of The Unwritten Rule. It's officially Mount Rushmore season. We did the first Mount Rushmore this summer. This is something we'll do throughout the offseason, just while the sports calendar kind of flips over to 2025-26. And in the spirit of that, we did Mount Rushmore of our favorite moments from Mizzou athletics in the last year. So 2024, 2025, just kind of did a little walk down memory lane. Wanted to do that. And if you have any Mount Rushmore ideas that you'd like to see done, put those in the comments on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching. We'll always take ideas. So we'll do this throughout the summer. Do Mizzou ones, non-Mizzou ones. Just kind of have fun with it. Something we've done on the show before. So we did the first one today. It was Mount Rushmore of Mizzou moments from the last year. So good Mount Rushmore. We also had a few notes at the beginning of the show, an upcoming commitment for Mizzou football, which might have already happened by the time you're listening to this. We kind of previewed that, so you'll get to know everything about that beforehand, and we'll talk about it. Assuming he does commit to Mizzou, we'll talk about that on Sunday's show. It's Keenan Harris, the 2026 linebacker. So talked about him, and also had a note on the Howard game for Mizzou men's basketball that got scheduled. Mizzou going to DC. We gave our thoughts on that. So good show. First Mount Rushmore. Always fun to do those and take a walk back down memory lane for the last year for Mizzou athletics. So good show coming up. Thanks so much for everyone for listening in advance. We'll get right to it. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou Sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, May 23rd, and Mizzou football is on commitment watch. I won't dilly-dally too long giving an introduction before throwing it to our resident recruiting expert, Kenny Van Doren. But Mizzou football, by the time you're listening to this, may have a recruit in tow in the class of 2026. They are a finalist for a four-star linebacker, Keenan Harris, a St. Louis product, goes to St. Louis University High School. He's the number 3 player in the state of Missouri, the number 17 linebacker, and the number 183rd player overall in the class of 2026 per Rivals.com. I know he moved his intended date up a little bit, and there was some restructuring of the timeline. But Kenny, I'll throw it to you. You've obviously been following his recruitment, and everyone's for a while. What do the people need to know about Caden Harris, his relationship with Mizzou, and what has made them a finalist here as Aaron has put Mizzou on commitment watch here for Keenan Harris?
Yeah, Keenan was initially going to plan for Saturday, moved it up to Friday. He's not going to have like a big ordeal at SLU. He's kind of a more reserved kid, and even Coach Adam Cruz over there at SLU would admit that. He's very polite and just, wants to get it done with. And he has official visits set up for Oklahoma, Iowa, and Missouri. I've gotten to see him a couple times since I moved here to St. Louis. Is literally like 5 minutes away. And so I had the opportunity to talk to him. And back in March, he talked about Derek Nicholson taking over, and DJ Smith has been his recruiter forever. Just how long he's been just on the Tigers' radar. Back in 2022 in November, Bush Hamden offered him. And it's a name probably some Mizzou fans haven't heard in a while, the old quarterbacks coach. So he's just been, a part of this class of 2026 targets forever for Mizzou. And it's really coming down to those 3 teams. And I'll be honest, I like the spot where Mizzou is in. I even put in a future cast earlier this week about Mizzou, having the best odds of landing him. And he has an official visit set up with the Tigers for June 20th to 22nd. And then after that time is when his mom said that they're kind of planning on just having a little get together for him. And, like I said, more reserved, he's just going to enjoy it with his family just once the OV season is over. Because there's a dead period that starts that Sunday or that Sunday night. So very, hybrid guy, 6'1", 220 pounds, looks like a guy that can, play in, at the star position if needed, but primarily a linebacker, can really fluctuate in that back end of the defense is what Mizzou's kind of told him for the past couple of years, just with, how big he is. And he's just a Swiss Army knife. Even if you look at him at 220 pounds, he doesn't look it. I mean, he's very lean. Like I went to see him we're on the same height, but, he's very cut, and, it really works out for him, that size wise. And just that SLU, he's just, he's a part of the return game. He's a linebacker. He's a wide receiver, running back. Like, he can do it all. And that's just what kind of happens at the high school ranks. But that versatility will play a key role kind of moving forward. I think at one point too, Rivals had him listed as a safety just because of that size, but he's put on some weight and really built into that frame. And but Mizzou's been in a good spot, and Derek Nicholson coming over from Miami has been huge, just for targeting top linebackers for Missouri and keeping one a little bit closer to home is what they're hoping for Friday.
That caught me off guard when you said he could play the star. I actually looked up, not the star, I suppose, in Batoon's defense, but that same prototypical role. So I actually looked up Dalen Carnell's height and weight. Mizzou's got him listed 6'2", 215. So yeah, very similar. That's pretty interesting for me. I'm kind of more of a fan of the smaller linebacker. That's more of like a good in pass coverage hybrid, anyways. So seems like a cool fit there. Obviously, his top 5 very impressive. You never really expect anyone to come in and contribute right away, but seems like he's got a lot of legit interest. And, it's good to see Missouri kind of maybe sitting in a good position to reel in a guy from St. Louis, because we've seen over the years a lot of St. Louis guys get away, particularly to the Ohio States, the Notre Dames, the Oregons of the world. I mean, probably the best running back in college next year is Jeremiah Love from St. Louis. So the more recruiting wins, I know Mizzou is kind of pivoted away towards high school recruiting, but I still think winning battles like this is really key. So should things go Mizzou's way, I think that's a very solid piece for them, especially only having one commit now at this point with Sidwar.
I was talking with Coach Cruz over there at SLU. He's been there for a couple of years, and he was big, trying to help Ryan Wingo navigate that recruitment as well, just because, Wingo was a 5-star, and going over to Texas, he had everybody coming to see him every single day, it seemed like. And so with that too, Keenan Harris got eyes on him too. Keenan really leaned on Ryan during those recruitment times. They're not the closest, they're friends, but it seems like they have kind of like a mutual friend within the program named Zach Allen, who's a wide receiver for SLU. And so Zach is very close with Ryan Wingo, and Zach is also very close with Keenan. But they still played together for 2 years, so there is a good relationship there. And when guys like from Oregon, Texas, Mizzou all came to see him, they also got to talk about Keenan Harris and talk to Coach Cruz about him and what the kind of future looked like for him. And I think he's a guy that I feel like once he commits, he kind of sticks with it. Like I kind of said, he was very reserved, polite, just, feels like someone that wants to get it done. And when I talked to him earlier this month, he sounded like a new person, just talking about Mizzou and talking about Nicholson. And, he's forever kind of grateful to DJ Smith and what he did in his recruitment, but he's very excited just about, Coach Nicholson. And it kind of made me feel like Mizzou is in a really good spot for him this week.
It feels like Mizzou too is just in a good spot with Derek Nicholson. Like, I feel like, whether or not these recruiting kind of trips end in wins or losses, it feels like he's building some good relationships. That's something I think we expected when he came over to the program. So I've been pleased with his work on the recruiting trail. I'm excited to see how it's going to translate on the field next season. The only other thing I'll add, like Peyton mentioned, Mizzou has 1 commit right now in 2026. It's Gavin Sidwar, the quarterback, continuing that PA to Como pipeline.
I got 2 more things too.
Yeah.
One big thing, the primary thing I was talking with Coach Cruz about is with how long Mizzou's been recruiting Keenan Harris, there's so many changes. Like we said, linebackers, linebacker coach changing. The guy who offered him is no longer here. He's at Kentucky now. He's had to stop at Boise State. It's just been such a long time. And one of the big things he tells his players is that Zach Ortworth, who was a tight end from SLU a couple classes ago in recent classes, went to Iowa. In his top 5, he told me, I think there was only 2 head coaches that are still with that respective team from that top 5, and only one of the tight ends coaches is still with that team, and that's Iowa. So that's kind of just shows you how much turnover there is in college football. He said, you have to commit to the program, you can't commit to the coach, and that's one of the biggest things. And I think that could be one of those things that just plays in Mizzou's favor, just with those relationships. And Drinkwitz is big in this too. That's something that needs to be noted. He went to a CBC basketball game that SLU was playing in a couple months ago and got to see him play. So that is a big relationship piece. And, Drinkwitz has been around his entire recruitment. So that's just another thing to note there.
Yeah, so some good notes there, Kenny. Definitely, you will talk a little bit about him more, assuming that commitment does come through, and Mizzou does win out there, but in a good spot there for Keenan Harris. We have a note for hoops before we kick it to the first Mount Rushmore. Actually, a couple notes on hoops. One quicker one as well before we kick it to the first Mount Rushmore of the summertime. Mizzou found out its season opener, and it is the return of the home and home against Howard. They are going to DC, and I forgot to write down the name of the arena. It's really short, but it's Howard's home arena. They're going to be playing at Howard in DC. So Mizzou going to a MEAC school, and I see Peyton grimacing. I know he has some thoughts on this. I have some thoughts on this as well, and I had an initial reaction, and then I've done some more thinking that has changed my reaction a little bit to this game, and Mizzou going to play a MEAC school on the road for the first game of the season. But I'll let you two weigh in first. Mizzou at Howard. This is, like I mentioned, the home and home. These two teams have only played once ever before, and it was last year in Columbia. Mizzou won that game, obviously, 77-62, if you don't remember the score. But Peyton, Kenny, what do you think about this? Mizzou headed to DC to face Howard. I'm gonna look up the name of the arena too before I.
Spur Gymnasium.
Thank you.
It's not really a grimace. It's just kind of like curiosity. Like, I really wonder what the end game is here, because I mean, you don't really see, like, we did see Alabama go to North Dakota last year, but that was like because Grant Nelson is like from the area. I don't remember off the top of my head if Mizzou has any ties to Washington, D.C. at all. I'll be honest, like my reaction is honestly not as like truly negative as a lot of people's are. I don't really think it's quite the same as UMass, because you have seen sort of similar things like this in basketball before. It is kind of weird that Mizzou is just, I don't know if it was intended to be a straight home and home with Howard, but it kind of winds up being that. I mean, Washington, D.C. is a cool area. It's probably a cool trip that the team's going to get to take and everything. So that's kind of neat. But I just want to see like some more marquee non-conference matchups. Like, not really going to play like at a low major is what I had in mind. I was thinking more like, what if Mizzou played like, I don't know, Marquette in like a neutral arena or something. That was more my style of what I was hoping for. But it is an interesting home opener. And look, on the road or not, this should be a win 100 times out of 100 for Missouri. But I am curious, like, what the end game kind of is for it.
I wonder if Sam Fetterman will be at this game. I think that would be kind of cool if one of his outlets sends him down there. We like watching Sam and his enthusiasm for college basketball. This seems like a game he'd enjoy.
Just quick on that. I have talked with him. He is willing to drive long hours. I have spoken to him about some of the road trips he's taken. So I wouldn't be shocked if he made the trip from New York to do this, Kenny.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good for the sport too. It puts, a positive light on, some low major teams, and I think this will be a big one just for that. And I can't think of any connections to Peyton. And just on that same just the same topic of guys being from different areas. When you look at like profiles for college basketball players, no one is actually from where it says they're from, because you sometimes you don't go to high school where you're supposed to be, or where you're from. Cause like guys will transfer to Link, they'll transfer schools in DC, Kansas. I don't think this is a big thing for recruiting. I think it's just overall just a big move for just college basketball and putting a positive light on all these teams. Cause once you get to the tournament too, I mean, you play guys that, some people don't really know too much about, and it kind of puts a light on them early on.
So I did a little more digging on this too. And because my initial reaction was, a little bit more negative at first. I kind of was like, other teams. And it is going to be fodder for Kansas and Arkansas fans to say, we would never schedule a game like this. But the three of us are all, college basketball fans and mid-major basketball fans. And, some of the response, I agree with you, Kenny. The more I thought about it, the more I kind of like it. Like, I like that mid-majors do this. And the other thing I found, Howard has actually done this before. So they played, I think they played Notre Dame at home a couple of years ago. Last year they played Cincinnati at home. Obviously not quite at the level of Mizzou. Cincinnati wasn't as good last year. Also, if this might not bode well for Mizzou, they took Cincinnati to overtime at home in that game. So got to be careful marching into Howard. So I think a lot of credit should go to Howard too, to schedule some of these games. And I think you two are both correct. I think it's ultimately good for the sport. It's a cool trip for Mizzou to do. So I've leaned away from the initial negative reaction that I had to it. Obviously, Peyton, you mentioned that Alabama North Dakota game. Alabama went up there and almost got beat. And I just said Cincinnati almost lost in OT to Howard last year there. So you got to be careful with these games. They can become trap games pretty fast. But I think overall, as a college basketball fan, I really like this.
I will also say, I mean, Howard obviously is an HBCU. Dennis Gates has been a very good advocate for HBCU. Like, Mizzou has always had HBCU schools on the schedule in his tenure. So I do think that's kind of a cool part of it, going to kind of, like you said, put a spotlight kind of on this game. It's very unique. I don't look at it the same way I look at like Mizzou, UMass in football. I do think this is like a cooler like initiative to do.
The other thing with football too is you don't have as many games. You probably want to put your team in front of its home audience as much as possible. Basketball, you have, what is it, 18 non-con games or 20 non-con games. You have more fluidity to do things like this and MITs and stuff like that. But Kenny, you have anything else on Mizzou Howard?
No, not really. I had something that just popped up, but it kind of lost in my brain. But oh yes, Mizzou Marquette. That game already happened, Peyton. I don't think they should play it again. A secret game.
Yeah,
closed doors.
Yeah, I know, but like that'd be a cool, like I want to see that. Like,
yeah, I think that's in the Memphis category. Yeah, it's a Memphis category game too. I think so it's high majors, or I guess high mid majors is what you would call them. Yeah. And I think those are some good games.
You know what?
I would call Marquette
a high major. Yeah,
being in the Big East and everything. I think that probably qualifies as high major.
We're gonna go to a Mount Rushmore in a second, but maybe a future Mount Rushmore topic. We pick four potential future opponents each, and that's our Mount Rushmore of dream Mizzou men's basketball road games or neutral site games. Maybe we figure out a way to rank those. I don't know.
Kenny's reporting Fanatics tweet. I don't know why.
Okay, Kenny. Doing his, I guess, some.
Well, what is Fanatics doing here? And no one interacted with it.
I mean, they probably have some sort of tie to this. I don't know what it would be.
The only other note,
everywhere, Kenny.
The only other note on hoops that we had, this just popped up. I'm gonna let Kenny finish his work here. What are we doing?
Just seeing if they replied to any other games.
That is weird. They replied to the Mizzou men's basketball official Twitter account. We're just like, must be a bot. AI, maybe.
Not. This is a human.
That could be. The only other Mizzou hoops note we have before we do Mount Rushmore, this just popped up here on Thursday when we're recording this. Mizzou has been linked to an intriguing prospect. You can see it on the YouTube. I'll just read the post here from Tobias Bass, one of the top prospects in Europe, 20-year-old Serbian guard Anjen Stankovic, I think is how you say his first name. If I butchered that, I apologize, Mr. Stankovic. He signed with a agency called Weave and is ready to explore college options. The 6'8" guard has heard from Rutgers, New Mexico State, UCF, South Florida, Southern Miss, Seton Hall, St. Mary's, Kansas, UIC, Pacific, Duquesne, Ohio State, and Missouri. So on the list for a 20-year-old Serbian players coming over and going to play college next year. These are obviously kind of interesting cases. You're getting more and more now, but we'll keep an eye on him. I don't know if you two have any notes. I assume you haven't watched any Stankovic film, which I will do if Missouri gets a commitment here, but on the list. So we had to mention it.
Is this like this upcoming season this guy would be playing? Like when it says next season, or does it mean the season after?
I did not. Upcoming.
Okay. I mean, it's so late in the process, but
I figured 25-26 is what Tobias Bass is meaning.
Yeah. That would make sense. He's already 20.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just so late. You don't see guys really commit this late.
Josh Gray committed in June.
That is true. And I think Isaiah Mosley honestly was a late one as well.
Yeah.
But
It does say for next season. So, yeah, I think he does mean the upcoming 2025-26 season.
it's an emerging market. A lot of schools have really kind of ramped up their recruiting over there.
And we've seen a connection before. There was a Italian player that, or Italian, right?
Italian, yeah.
Yeah, that Mizzou was connected to, and there's one roster spot to fill. They announced Jaden Stone's official signature today, so you're at 14 out of 15, and still one spot to fill. I don't think I think Mizzou would be okay not filling it. I think they're just still kind of exploring to see what's out there, and that's why they're in this set of teams right now that reached out to a European 20-year-old.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll keep an eye on Stankovic's recruitment, see if Mizzou gets any steam there. But for now, gents, it's time to kick off Mount Rushmore season. This is one of our favorite times in the summer. We do this to, when the Mizzou sports calendar kind of comes to an end, and obviously that's a little bit more fluid. But in that spirit, we're in late May here. There's not as many sports going on, so we thought it was apropos to take a look back at the kind of 2024-25 academic Mizzou sports calendar, whatever you want to call it. So if you're new to our show or just new to Mount Rushmores in general, we are not the first nor the last to do this, but we will spin a wheel, as Kenny has one up on the YouTube if you're watching. We'll each pick 4 moments from across Mizzou athletics for the last 2024-25 sports calendar. So obviously a bunch to choose from. We thought it'd be a fun look back, and we'll do this for different topics throughout the summer. So if you're watching, listening, you have a topic you want to do a Mount Rushmore ranking, you can submit your own in the comments. Put them down. We love ideas, so we're happy to pick any. Yes, Kenny.
Also, submit the ones that we missed, because we're gonna miss ones. We're gonna miss ones
Yes.
that you liked, and you're gonna have better ones than us. There's gonna be things we forgot. Things slip through. It's a long year. There's things that stand out more to us than they might to you. So you can submit your own as well.
Yeah, put your own Mount Rushmores for the topics we do, and if you have topic ideas, put them down, because we're happy to do them. That means we don't have to do as much thinking, which we don't like to do on this show. All right, Kenny, you want to spin the wheel?
Yep. First one would be just the first person.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we do a snake order, so the third person will get 2.
Sit.
And would you
Stay.
look at that?
There we
Peyton,
go.
Picking out Mount Rushmore season.
Finally, a non-rigged reel.
Kenny, do you want to? Yeah, let's spin for a
I'll
second.
spin one more time.
Yeah.
All right.
Would you look at that? I am second. All right. So Peyton will go first. I can write them down on my notes tab for later. You don't need to spin again there, Kenny. All right, Peyton, you're on the clock, my friend. Kenny will have 2 picks going third.
There is pretty much only 2 options for this one, I'd say. I think it's Border War or the Oklahoma game for football. And anyone that knows me knows I like basketball, college basketball more. So I'm going to go with the Border War. I think that is pretty easily, honestly, the top one. Oklahoma was great for football, but I mean, finally getting that win in that rivalry after just being pretty much manhandled the 3 years prior in the return. And Dennis Gates seemed to really embrace it this year. He was really happy to see the fans rush the court. Felt like they had the right mindset for it finally. It was a very cathartic moment, I thought, and it was probably, I think, honestly, when they won that game, I was pretty much 100% that they were going to make the tournament. I felt like that was the solidifier for me. But yeah, that was easily, to me, the best moment of this past year.
It's a good pick. I will put a third one in there for, I think, a top tier moment across Mizzou athletics in there. I am, though, going to pick the Oklahoma football game second. I think that's got to come off the board here. Border War was phenomenal. That obviously, I think that's the home run. That's the Cooper flag of this draft, if you will. I'll probably make that joke a lot until the actual NBA draft when we do this. But I will pick the Oklahoma game. I mean, the scoop and score at the end. Drew Pine, him leading that game, his moment in the sun. That was so much fun. Obviously, a rivalry renewed. I will get the Oklahoma win football. Kenny, you have 2.
Yeah, those were my top two. As of course,
Yeah.
like one A, one B. I think just the outcome of this game, maybe not the biggest, and I think the Auburn game would have to be my next one, just because with if you want to believe it or not, Peyton, he did go to the hospital. Brady Cook was injured. He was walking around barefoot in the hospital or with socks on, if
Wait,
you want to
does
say
Peyton
that.
think this was AI
I
or
like to
something?
He made
joke
a
around
face.
that the camera footage that they use in the mini movie is like it looked like it was him walking into like Hit Street Market or something. It didn't look much like a
Just needed like
hospital.
a
I
Subway
do
sub and a
believe he
Red
went to
Bull.
the hospital. I actually do believe that. But it's just funny to joke like the footage looked like he went into Hit Street to get like a reel.
And it's homecoming. It's even bigger. It's a bigger deal. Also, that For Real machine is no longer in the Hit Street garage because that's not there anymore.
Well,
So,
it was when we were there.
I'm going to take Brady Cook hospital game as my first pick. Number two, it can be a big one. I'm just going to take it for the moment, for what it was, and not for really what happened after the game or moving forward after the season. But I'm going to take the Alabama game. More so, I'm just taking one event from the Alabama game, and it's when Dennis Gates got the microphone and said, "Do not rush the court." And I think that kind of shows you where Mizzou basketball was in that moment. How big that win was for the program, but also that they weren't going to take a fine just for beating a team. They knew that they could beat Alabama, and this season did not go as planned after that, and it kind of spiraled, and that felt like a peak in that season, the apex, as Jack would like to say. And so I'm going to go with that.
Mizzou men's basketball 2024-25. Yeah, I would wanted to take that myself, honestly, because I can take my victory lap of picking Mizzou to win that game in our conference picks and getting laughed out of the building. And then
Nobody left you out of the building.
Yes, you did.
You're making things up.
You called me biased, and I saw the recipe. I'm taking a total victory lap on that. Okay, my second one, I'm torn between two here, and I think I'm going to take probably this. There's a single moment that I kind of want to take for this sport, but I think I'm going to just take the culmination of the season. I'm going to go gymnastics finishing third in the country.
I was going to take Helen
reaching there.
Hughes' closing moment.
Okay, I guess I can take that specifically. There's another Helen Hugh one I think that can be in this draft that I don't mind putting out there. But I'm just going to go Mizzou finishing third nationally. I mean, so the highest finish in for a women's sport program history. They reached the Final Four. It's just a phenomenal year from gymnastics. Having fun, kind of following that, and we talked to Karen about it a few shows ago. It was fun. So I'll go gymnastics finishing third as my second pick.
That's a good pick. That was going to be one of my picks probably if it wasn't taken before then. But unfortunately, Jack was paying attention to all the sports. I think I gotta take the Mizzou beating Florida, like in basketball at Florida. That was pretty unbelievable. That was I knew, like I said, Border War made me think Mizzou was a tournament team. That made me think Mizzou was capable of a run, because that wound up being maybe the most impressive win, probably is the most impressive resume win of the season. Missouri was the only team that beat Florida in Gainesville this past year. Of course, the eventual national champs. I mean, they were crushing Florida for a lot of that game. I mean, you had Tamar Bates doing the chomp after the game at the crowd. They did not like that. I go back and watch that clip a couple times. He gets flipped off by quite a few people. Gosh, that was so much fun.
Some big Tito Barrett minutes in there.
The less said about the rest of that season, the better. For my third pick, those are kind of like the big highlight moments. I almost want to go. I don't want to go basketball again, but there is a couple more basketball ones I'm thinking about. I'll go over to football now because Knowlton took the one I had planned in this pot of two, being the Helen Hugh and just Mizzou gymnastics in general. I am going to go ahead, and this is kind of a weird one, but Luther Burden's catch against South Carolina, if you just ignore the last minute and a half of that game, That was that could seriously, like, they would have made a statue of that play if Mizzou made the playoffs. I mean, that was such an unbelievable pitch and catch. I know Brady Cook actually talked about it once, or maybe it was Luther. One of them talked about it when they were asked about it. How they just came to the line of scrimmage, they saw the coverage they were in, and they kind of gave, like, Brady and Luther kind of gave a look to each other. They knew, like, that ball was going to Luther all the way. It wasn't the season Luther wanted for a lot of it, but I mean, just the one-handed grab, the shit, just tossing that poor South Carolina DB to the side. The call, by the way, I believe it was Tom Hart on the call, was excellent. Like, that made the moment so much better. Just silenced the hell out of that raucous South Carolina crowd. That was a great moment, and that's my number 3. Like, again, unfortunately, it's really kind of ruined. That's probably maybe the first 1 or 2 picks if Mizzou goes on to win that game and makes the playoff. But unfortunately, it falls to the 3rd round because of the ending.
I think those are both really good picks. I even could say, like, maybe that Florida win is maybe the most impressive win in hindsight in college basketball last season. You beat the national champs on their home floor in conference play. It wasn't like a early non-con game. It was a conference game. You didn't know that they were going to go on to win the national championship pretty handily against some of the opponents they were playing. And then, I mean, that U of H game was just a terrible ending in just all respects. And but yeah, I mean, that's a really good pick. I think I'd honestly, some people might put that above Alabama.
Yeah, no, that catch was iconic. That game was ridiculous. I'm throwing it back briefly to the Florida men's basketball win. I just will never forget. I was leaving in somewhere, and I got stuck in a parking garage during the final 2 minutes of that game. The, like, gates were down, and I couldn't get out. So it was just the chaos of watching that, texting people, and trying to get out of this parking garage. It was a fun moment as a personal spin on that. Okay, so this is my 3rd pick. I've got a couple. There's a couple for football I want to do. But I actually think I am gonna do, because I have gymnastics and football already. I'm gonna do my own hoops one. And I'm gonna just go the Caleb Grill going nuclear against Mississippi State, hitting the shot, and then the text I got of just different cities in Mississippi from where he hit the shot from, because it was on the logo. That really cemented him as kind of a cult hero. I think, again, you have to look past how the season ended for him, but some of his performances were just so much fun, and that one was magical. And I remember talking on this show about this, is that Mississippi State, I think Ole Miss, or Texas A&M, Tennessee run of games. We were like, which one are they going to drop? And they just went in there and throttled Mississippi State, and that was a really fun game. So I will go Caleb Grill against Mississippi State as my 3rd pick.
I think that one gets buried too, just with how that season ended. People just kind of seem to forget it, because that was probably the most dominant win in our just time at Mizzou on the road, of any basketball game the last 4 or 5 years. So that's a big one too.
Yeah.
So I guess I have 2 here to round it out. I'm going to go with this game because I feel like they're, even though it's not like the biggest, football win in the program history, especially just for Drinkwitz, but I'm going to take the Music City Bowl. I think on just like multiple parts of it being a rematch, how does that happen? Just you lose your 2020 bowl game. And I feel like that wasn't talked about enough, about how funny that is that you were going to play that team 4 years ago. Peyton loves the merchandise from that game. One of my last press conferences I did when I was on the football beat in college, Ennis Rakestraw was wearing a shirt from that game. So a lot of fun memories just thinking about that one that never happened. But the dive over the line, no matter if he was offsides or, if someone was in the neutral zone, that was a big jump from Corey Flagg. And I think that kind of cemented, his end to Mizzou, and just kind of showed you how much, transfers made an impact. But also I think that game was a good combination of the future. A lot of different wide receivers getting in the action with Hollywood Johnson, if Jack wants to use the nickname here. And Josh Manning was a big part. Theo Weiss going down with the hand injury really opened up some opportunities for those guys and showed you that Mizzou was in good hands moving forward at the wide receiver spot. And put, a lot more trust back. Or I don't think anyone was losing trust, but cemented trust in Jacob Peeler and his group as well. And I think it was just a good combination of all those guys coming together one last game. And it wasn't the biggest win in program history, but he ended a good year, another back-to-back years with double-digit wins. And it's exactly what this program wanted. My last one, and I'm only doing this because I feel like it should get a shout, just because it was a really terrible season. I'm going to give it to Mizzou baseball. Sweeping Texas A&M on the road. I think that is one of the biggest, just what the heck headlines of the entire year. Texas A&M coming into the year, we've talked about it at length. Maybe not at length. We talked about it a handful of times. Number one in the nation. There was a team that lost in the College World Series last year. Of course, lost their head coach to Texas. But Jace Laviolette opened the year as a top 5, top 3 draft prospect. He's down to 7 right now on MLB Pipeline. But this is a team that had high hopes, and they got swept by the Mizzou Tigers, a team that was destined to go
defeated.
He was going to go defeated all 30 games in that year. And this team came back home and got dismantled by a Mississippi State team that fired its head coach. There was just, the writing was on the wall. This team was not very good. The talent wasn't there this year in the SEC. And this team defeated and swept Texas A&M. I think that should just get its shout. To not, season ended, not any way people wanted, and it didn't win any more games after that. Lost in the first round of the SEC tournament to Alabama. But what a series! I mean, that's an incredible run just for Mizzou baseball, just to sweep Texas A&M of all schools.
That is a fun pick, because also the funny part about that series was Mizzou's pitching staff, which was just a mess. Just injured, ineffective, just bad most of the year. They 2-hit Texas A&M twice in that series, which is really unbelievable. I mean, they were 1 run away from mercy ruling A&M at the end. I mean, that I'm pretty sure, obviously, because Missouri is not even close. I'm not paying too close attention to the bracketology of college baseball, but I believe A&M was completely knocked out. They went from probably bubble in to completely out, according to most people from that series, which is hilarious. Sorry, that's really funny.
It's always fun to play spoiler from time to time.
And it's a team that swept LSU and Arkansas. It has big wins on the year, and then comes home. It's swept by one of the worst teams in SEC history, with one of the pitchers who's currently in a quarterback battle for a team that has aspirations of playing in the postseason. You keep adding these parts. I talked to Peter Zimmerman, a good friend of the show, and maybe one day we'll have him back on. He just said he didn't really want to talk about this stuff right now, and just kind of where where it's going. And I was talking to him, I was like, probably the most prominent player on this team is also on the football team. It's there's just really no big names, and then this Mizzou baseball team just puts it all together and just beats the crap out of a team that, like we said, was number 1 in the nation starting the year.
I like it. I like the zag there. I like giving baseball some love for the moment of playing spoiler. I like my draft. I maybe am going to catch some flack for this pick because this game did not go well, but I want to pick this moment anyway because it was really funny. My last pick, I'm going to actually pick the missed field goal at the end of the Mizzou Vanderbilt game. And I know it wasn't, it was more frustrating to just eke out a win against Vanderbilt. A Vanderbilt team that went on to beat Alabama and had, some good, and then that game becoming what it was, a point of contention of I think it was when Alabama lost and went down only 3 places, but Mizzou got dinged for beating Vanderbilt. There was all that. But I'm picking it because I watched that game with one of our good friends, Max Baker, and then a collection of people at a party who are not big sports fans that we all suckered into just becoming Mizzou fans. And, they all got excited when Mizzou won the game, and me and Max are just fuming because it was a 3-point win over Vanderbilt that needed a shock miss field goal to get it. It was just kind of hilarious. It sort of, to me, symbolized sort of the topsy-turvy moments of Mizzou's football season over the course of the year that happened after that. I just thought it was funny. So I'm going to throw the missed Vanderbilt field goal. Also, as a kicker guy, I like making fun of kickers who miss short kicks at the college level. So that was very funny for me.
I remember that game was Mizzou gave Vanderbilt a free field goal essentially at the end of the half. They could not get like Brady Cook and Luther Burden just could not get in sync until overtime when they hit that pretty nice pass actually. Just a really messy game for the most part, but like you said, Vanderbilt wound up being pretty good. They
Yeah.
beat Alabama. They went 7-6. They won the Birmingham Bowl over a pretty damn good Georgia Tech team. A Georgia Tech team that, mind you, did not have many opt-outs. That's a pretty solid program they've got building over there. So it wound up being a better win in retrospect, but it is funny to look at just like the rankings Mizzou had week by week. After the Boston College game, they were number 7 going into the Vanderbilt game. Like you said, they won that game. Were number 9 going into A&M, and then obviously we know how that one went, and they were never single digit again.
I think this is just like one of those things that like my brain is very wired differently and just weirdly. But I was talking about, the connections between Iowa and Mizzou, replaying that game. I think it's almost kind of like fitting that, Mizzou beats Vanderbilt in this way. Because you look back, I mean, it was 4 years ago, 4 years prior, but Mizzou played a Vanderbilt team that didn't have a kicker. I don't know if you guys remember this, at home. And they had Sarah Fuller, who was on the soccer team, play in that game. This reminded me of it. And I remember she didn't even get an opportunity to kick because Vanderbilt was just so bad that year. Mizzou actually tarmacked the coach, too, in that game. And so that was just something that just popped up in my mind. I remember she got to do a kickoff, but that was it. Just because Vanderbilt just could not get into the
there was no opportunity. Yeah. Like it wasn't even they were just so bad. Vanderbilt's come a long way. I just think it set up the topsy-turviness that kind of came after that, where you had like the Texas A&M and Alabama downs, and you had the Auburn and the OU ups and Arkansas. Like, that's my last pick. Peyton, finish off the draft.
I'm kind of between two. Like, I'm kind of between that Arkansas football game, just because it was kind of a nice ending for Brady Cook in his last game there. Also, shout out Joseph Charleston for the pass breakup that really prevented a really unbelievable touchdown for Arkansas at the end. I'm going to go with another basketball game, though. I'm going to go with the Cal game because, my God, listen to me. That game was going so ungodly terrible. Until Mark Mitchell just hit kind of a nothing dunk going into half. And then Mizzou they could not. I remember they shot something like over 80% in the second half. Anthony Robinson, that was the first game I was really like, oh my God, this guy's a star now. Peyton Marshall actually got in and played some really damn good minutes. And it just really, I don't think the border war happens without the game immediately preceding it, which was California. Fun ACC, SEC challenge there. It was a weird matchup, but Mizzou actually, I think, came out the other side of it a lot better because they just got absolutely punched in the mouth. They were down almost 20, I think, in this game and just ran away with it in the second half. And I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of the season up until the last 9 games.
I'm going to be upfront. I might have been busy. I don't remember a thing from the Cal game other than Andrei Stojakovic, who is Peja Stojakovic's kid, plays for Cal. That is literally the only thing I remember.
Not anymore. Mizzou will play him again this year. He's at Illinois.
There you go. He's not even at Cal anymore. That's literally the only thing I remember from that game.
That game was a blast. I'm sorry both of you missed it.
It was right before signing day, so that's why I didn't watch this. It actually was it on signing day?
It might have been.
I think so, because I'm pretty sure I remember Javion Hilson committed like either an hour before Cal or right after.
So that would have been December. It was the day before signing day. Okay. So it might have been why, but I feel like this is kind of like a forgettable time. I don't know, like ACC, SEC challenge games. Pitt was a good one 2 years ago, but this one, I don't know why. I just have
the whole ACC SEC slate had zero aura. There was like one good game. It was like
the
Auburn,
SEC,
Duke, and that was it.
Yeah, the SEC pretty much cracked the ACC in this one. Is that challenge back again this year?
Yeah. I think. Actually, I don't know if we know the matchups yet. Do we? I don't think we know them.
We don't.
I don't think they've scheduled them. So, yeah. The only other ones I had on my board, the other gymnastics one I had was the moment of, I guess I could have picked this one to be more specific, but Helen Hughes. It was a 9.98 to beat Florida and send Mizzou to the Final Four, getting a win over Florida. That was nice. Had that on there. I had this final drive in the snow against Arkansas. That was my only other football one. I put down Keegan O'Toole finishing second on a torn ACL in wrestling. Finished his career as a 5-time All-American. He's now an assistant coach on the wrestling team. I'll have a track one actually in quick hits. But then my only other one I had was volleyball, going 22-9, won 2 NCAA tournament games for the first time since 2017. I went back. Do you guys know how many times the volleyball team has played Nebraska in the NCAA tournament in the last 5-7 years?
I don't. How many?
They've had their season ended by Nebraska 3 times since 2018 in the NCAA tournament. That is very unfair because Nebraska is a volleyball powerhouse.
Unfair. Okay.
Unfair.
I had 2 more, and I think they were just kind of fun ones if we really went further than 4 each. Buffalo, that was back-to-back shutouts. There was some record about that, some stat about that. They beat Murray State 51-0 in the home opener of the Thursday game, and then the next week 38-0 against Buffalo. And just another one, just because it was, it's the end of the Jim Stark era. Things are, his fingerprints are still, all over Mizzou. Beating UMass on the road is hilarious.
I thought
that is such a funny game.
I thought someone was going to put that one as a joke.
That's not cool.
I think that is hilarious that they did that.
Week after A&M too. It was embarrassing.
But 45-3, not even a shutout on the road. I assume
Mizzou not getting 80 points in that game was embarrassing.
Having to lick your wounds on against.
There were a couple guys out in that game. That was right around the turn where they lost a couple linebackers.
Nate Noel got hurt on the plane, right? He got off the plane.
Stiff neck.
He was stiff.
That's
good times.
Yeah.
The Luther catch was great. That South Carolina game was a heartbreaker. I watched that with a couple other Mizzou alums too. That was a hard one. All right. There's your Mount Rushmore. First one of the season. Again, comment your own. I'm sure you guys have other moments that we're forgetting from the last calendar season for Mizzou athletics. And put any ideas too, because we'll happily do them. So Mount Rushmore season is here. We'll finish the rest of the show on the other side with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. We've got jerseys of the week. Kenny, starting us off on a sour note, but what's your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week goes to Madison Walker, formerly of Mizzou softball. It comes from Brady Vernon of On3. He reported some transfer portal entries, and among the ones that we've talked about so far for Mizzou softball, Madison Walker is going into the portal. I actually found a good story from the Kansas City Star written 3 weeks ago. Dad's a Jayhawk. She picked Mizzou instead is the headline. She's from Olathe, Kansas, went to Olathe West High School. No idea if that's where she's going to end up. It's actually a story from Columbia Tribune. It just got posted into the Kansas City Star. Shout out Trudeck. That's his name. That's the writer's name.
No,
it's kind of a weird vibe early on from the portal in softball. Just 2 pretty key players in Pennell and Walker kind of walking out the door. Just something you kind of don't expect to see from this program that's been really consistent over a good number of years. So Larissa Anderson very clearly has her work cut out for her.
Yeah, I mean, to call back again to the interview we did with Karen, I mean, that's what she harped on, was that this has to be a win for Mizzou in the transfer portal, and so far not so much. So yeah, we'll see what talent ends up being brought in, but yeah, a little bit of a shaky start for Mizzou softball. Peyton, your jersey.
My jersey of the week is going to be Chloe Sotel. She is a guard from Stamford, Connecticut. She is Mizzou women's basketball's latest commit in the portal. She went to Pepperdine her freshman year and was an all-freshman team performer in the West Coast Conference. She averaged 11 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds in her debut season with the Waves. So actually seems like a very decent addition for Mizzou women's basketball. Could be someone that kind of develops under Kelly Harper. We'll see. I don't know how many more additions I'd expect at this point. I think they kind of have the nucleus as they kind of look to rebuild the program this year.
Yeah, I like this addition for Mizzou women's basketball. Like you said, developmental kind of piece. Obviously performed well at the mid-major level. So we'll see if that can translate. I think a lot of these additions for Mizzou women's basketball too. I just need to see, this kind of new nucleus take the court and really get an identity for themselves, because there's just so many moving parts and new players. But I love the work Kelly Harper for the for what's been poor about Mizzou softball in the transfer portal. I love what Kelly Harper has been doing to try and build this program ahead of her first season. My jerseys of the week. I mentioned I have a track shout out, and I feel bad because we call it the end of the Mizzou sports calendar, but I guess there's still kind of national track and field events still going on in the outdoor scale, but we had to call it somewhere. But my jersey of the week, I'm giving it to 2 track athletes from the women's track team. Got all SEC honors. Christy Perez Snyman was a first teamer. She took gold in the high jump at the 2025 SEC track and field championships. School record was 1.9 meters, 6'2.75 in the non-metric system measurement. Was the first women's student athlete in Mizzou history to win the high jump outdoors. And then Valentina Barrios was a second teamer. She got a silver medal in the javelin. And then I also didn't realize this. Mizzou's javelin team is ranked 3rd in the country. They have a very good javelin team led by Barrios. So a couple of track athletes doing well at the SEC track and field event, earning all SEC honors. So congrats to those 2. Next up,
no cap, and he's the main bird.
Sean East, main bird of the week. Kenny, your main bird.
Peyton really wanted this one. I put it on the doc before he could. He asked me a couple days ago, hey, did Austin Dendy end up anywhere, the former Missouri running back who entered the transfer portal this spring? And I said, no, I haven't seen anything. Name searched him, found this one pretty quickly. He announced it on Bowling Green announced that it signed Austin Dendy on May 7th. I don't know how this one just kind of slipped through. I'm surprised no one just retweeted it or it popped up somewhere, but former Missouri running back from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, is heading to Bowling Green and continuing that pipeline. Didn't take a stop in Indiana before he got there, but he's going to be a Bowling Green Falcon. So there's my
Falcon.
connection.
Yes. Interestingly, Dendy, he's under Eddie George there. Eddie George is the head coach at Bowling Green now. Obviously, very, very famous running back from back in the day. At Ohio State and for the Tennessee Oilers. So I would think he's got a pretty big eye for talent at the running back room. And I know the Mizzou coaching staff always had a lot of good things to say about Austin Dendy. So good for him. Could be a pretty nice landing spot for him.
Yeah, best of luck to Austin Dendy. I also enjoy the 2 hashtags that Bowling Green puts with their tweets. I looked it up. A Ziggy is the name of their fight song, but then just hashtag guts. It's a gritty football hashtag. There, Peyton, your main bird.
My main bird of the week is we're going to go right back into softball. Mizzou softball has a new assistant coach. It is Jason Gwynn, who spent the past 4 seasons at North Texas. The Mean Green, their logo is a little bird thing. So there you go. That's the bird connection. They were very good while Gwynn was there. They went 140-83 and won the 2022 Conference USA title, along with their first ever regional bid. He coached infielders, defensive alignment, and situational execution, and served as North Texas's recruiting coordinator. This all comes from the press release Mizzou softball had. They went 36-21 last year with him, so seems like a very qualified coaching candidate to be an assistant coach in the SEC.
Hopefully he can help with the recruiting too. Maybe bring some through that North Texas pipeline. Come over to Columbia. My main bird of the week. I'm playing into his bit here, so maybe I shouldn't do this and give him more airtime, but I'm going to do this because I still thought it was funny. My main bird's going to be Hunter Dickinson. He is literally getting ready to learn LinkedIn, buddy. He posted this on X. He said, "At the haters, this one is for you." And he did a LinkedIn ad because he played into the fact that he has been in college for 254,000 years. and he's now getting a real job. And he did an ad for LinkedIn. Again, probably playing into it, his bit, but I thought it was funny. And good riddance, Hunter Dickinson from college basketball.
Good riddance indeed.
I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
Kenny, don't do this. Yeah, you're not doing it.
I don't get it. I don't get why he gets hated on. Does he play a certain way that people don't like him?
Play?
He just plays basketball. I don't know.
No, he's a hothead.
Yeah, he's a total hothead. He wears ski masks when to road game. He's just a loser. He's a loser.
Do you not remember when he hit the 3 against Missouri and did this at the student section afterwards?
Oh no! A Mizzou player would do the same thing. You talked about earlier about how Tamar Bates did chomp against.
Yeah, but it's cool when he does it.
Okay, exactly, because he's on your team. He's on y'all's team.
No,
That's why. Okay, I don't know. I don't hate on the guy. I think he's funny. I've seen him on TV a couple times.
Did you even go to school at Missouri, dude? Come on.
I don't show any of these colors. You guys know that. Don't put me on the spot. I've seen him I don't know what his affiliation with Barstool too. The Barstool guy's back at crazy.
Whatever.
I don't know what that's about.
But. I grew up a Wisconsin fan, and he went to Michigan, and he was also a loser there. So mine runs deep. I don't like Hunter Dickinson.
Here's my question: Mizzou needed a big man this offseason. If Hunter Dickinson was cleared for 8th year,
no, Hunter Dickinson wasn't good for to Kansas either. He put up empty stats. He's been putting up empty stats his whole career, and now he's going to LinkedIn.
Not a lot of people were good for Kansas last year. We can say that too.
Yeah.
So maybe it's into a different system.
It's like an energy vampire. He just takes away everyone's abilities around him. Peyton, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week. This is awesome. The Brett Brown transfer saga has finally reached its conclusion. It appears. Brett Brown is going to Middle Tennessee State. He's a Blue Raider. I told Kenny about this. Kenny posted it to his board. You're welcome, Kenny's board. That's not true. Kenny excitedly texts Kenny about Brett Brown, thinking he hadn't seen it, but Kenny had indeed already seen it.
You can never do that. You can never do that.
Well, he didn't know the Dendy thing. I got him on the Dendy trail.
Wow.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
I also love Sam Horn just double replying to him. Do your thing. 2 heart emojis. Good job, twin. 2 rock on emojis. What a fun QB room it must be at Missouri. And Brett Brown, good for him. He was scout team for 7 years? He was there forever. Now he gets a chance.
3 years.
3 years. And now he gets a chance to maybe go and start. I don't know Sorry, sue me. I didn't look up the Middle Tennessee.
No, it's okay. He was just in school for a quarter of the time Hunter Dickinson was.
Yeah, exactly. So
nearly half.
Good for Brett Brown. I remember he entered the portal last year and wound up coming back. Now he gets a real opportunity.
We thought he did it again because he deleted his transfer post. He's from Tennessee, so this is a big one. The reason I found out is that we have a Middle Tennessee site at Rivals, and they tagged me in it because I've had some overlap because they also work with the volunteer site over there. So there's some overlap between Tennessee and Mizzou guys, and they just tagged me, and I was like, "Oh wow!" I messaged the guy, and I was like, I had no idea he was still in the portal because he just deleted his post again. But from what I said and from what I read, if you saw my retweet, Peyton, you'd know this too. He is in a quarterback competition. So there is a battle there that he could get some starting reps.
There you go.
Come on, Brett.
Best of luck to Brett Brown. Kenny, what'd you learn?
This is just a quick one. You guys, I said that I would get you a quick update on this. I talked to someone close to Anthony Kennedy's recruitment. He said Kennedy is still looking to take his Mizzou official visit on June 20th. Don't know if that will happen. Everything's changing. Sound like a broken record. But he is going to visit Miami next weekend. Miami came to see him this past week. So a former Missouri commit, still looking at his other options. But looks like Mizzou is still fitting the back end of his official visit schedule this summer on June 20th. Could change. There's other schools out there. Georgia, Arkansas. Went to Georgia this past weekend according to his schedule. SMU is also in the picture now. Tennessee.
I'll throw out a bold take and say that he is not going to recommit to Missouri.
I'm not expecting that either. I think it's more so that I got this confirmed for you guys, and you guys should praise me and bow to me, and Jack should give me high praise again.
Yeah, that's why you didn't get Dendy until a lowly. He's gone. I don't expect Anthony Kennedy will be back, but Hey, Kenny's the expert. So,
Yeah.
oh, we got Kenny stretching.
I thought I was done for the show.
As soon
That
as I
kicked me
as soon
out.
as I saw
No,
him do
dude, we got like
anything
two more
funny,
things to talk
I
about.
put him in. My best thing I learned this week. This isn't sports related, but this was really cool. And shout out to Karen for the tweet. But I know this was posted everywhere. Mizzou hosted, or dude, Mizzou, a backyard at Mizzou, hosted the All American Rejects, the punk band. This is apparently a thing they're doing. They're just going around. Apparently, they have a sign up sheet, and they're just doing backyard concerts. And they did one at Mizzou, and I think that's super cool. I mean, they've obviously got some, major hits. They're a big time band, have been from the early 2000s. This would have been cool to be at. I know our friend Zach was, but imagine just pulling up to an East Campus Mizzou backyard and Gives You Hell is just playing, and you're like, oh, it sounds like a cover band, and it's just actually the All American Rejects at your show.
Do you guys like a? I'm looking at my phone right now, so I'm looking off the screen for you YouTube viewers. A little behind the scenes. He said, "Here's my quote."
This is Zach Hernandez's
This
quote.
is Zach Hernandez.
We had a source at the concert.
Let's see. Did he say anything?
Really
it was
love
pretty
that.
cool. Sorry, we just talk so much. We're just such close friends. He said it was pretty cool.
Wow.
It got shut down by the cops too.
Did it really?
That's what our friend Tyler Kading said.
That's fitting. I think that, there's only one way for that kind of show to end. But this is super cool. I think that's really fun. I listened to an All American Rejects album while I was prepping for the show this morning in spirit of this. But
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
they have some bangers. Shut up, Peyton. Just tell a joke to end the show.
This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, why did the computer catch a cold?
Why did the
Why are
computer
you playing
catch a
the
cold?
NFL draft sound effect?
I don't know.
I got a bug. I got a virus.
Virus?
Something like that.
Couple
Caught a
decent
virus.
guesses,
Caught a bug.
but no, that's not the answer. Why did the computer catch a cold?
It left the windows open.
Yes, it left.
Oh,
right in
that's
time.
a good one. That's a
Good
good
job.
one.
You got your keyboard fingers working just in time to get the
I think
answer.
I have
Oh, come on. No, I was unmuting and muting myself. My windows have been open all day. I could hear the lawnmower going
your
crazy
windows are
outside.
open. You're gonna catch
Yeah,
a
That's
cold.
why we could hear a cop car in the background or a siren.
You guys could hear that?
Yeah, we could hear that.
We could do that.
I think they're in here.
They're not.
All right, that'll do it for the show.
We got it. We made it to an hour. How about that? Go
Made it to an
us.
hour summer show. Put more Mount Rushmore topics in the comments, please, because we absolutely will take any and all ideas. There's Kenny to end the show with my voice in the background. He's being kidnapped by the Windows people. All right, that'll do it for the Edward Rule. See you next time. Bye.